And welcome everybody to week 5 of class. It's hard to believe that we're already a third of the way through the semester. This chapter, Sports Sales Foundations, is critical. Obviously, it says it in the title, the foundations of sports sales. But really, when you think about this chapter, we're going to tell you a lot of groundwork that you're going to need to understand how to sell to someone, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether you're selling yourself to someone. It all funnels into this chapter. There's several key terms that we're going to talk about. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. You'll see the key terms that are here. Definitely read this chapter, maybe read it a second time. I know nobody's going to voluntarily read this 2 times, but it really is that important because there's so many good points to be made through this chapter. You can see everything from the different types of selling, such as consultative selling, customer-focused selling, product-based selling. You're going to see things like scarcity, of motivation, need, and we're going to talk about how that all factors in as we go through this chapter. So definitely take your time, read this chapter thoroughly, and then go through the key terms and make sure that you understand. The most important probably of this entire thing is the value proposition, right? Value proposition. What value can you provide to someone through a product, through a service, through your own self, whatever it may be. That value proposition is huge when it comes to selling. So let's talk briefly about the different types of sales approaches that are out there. First of all, you have the product focused selling. So in product focused selling, basically the salesperson is exclusively looking at the benefits, the features, the quality, the reputation of the product. There are times when each of these factors in, right? If you are out there and you're selling tickets, for example, you want to focus on the ticket, the value of that ticket, the benefits of that ticket, why somebody needs that ticket versus another form of entertainment, right? How are you going to sell somebody on a basketball ticket when they can go to a baseball game? They could go to a soccer game. They could go to the theater. They could go to a movie, right? So you have to focus really on the products and the benefits that come out of that. If you're selling lawnmowers, and there are a million different type of lawnmowers out there, you really have to focus on the product and what benefits that particular product has versus the other ones. So it purely is focused on the product. In terms of customer focused selling, it's a little bit of the opposite almost. Customer focused selling, salesperson talks about the product or service in terms of what the customer wants, not in terms of what they're selling. So we're basically saying, hey, this is a service that we are providing. This is why you need it. Not necessarily focused on what service you're providing, but really you're focused on kind of building that relationship with the customer. Having product recognition or recommendation helps the salesperson to satisfy needs, solve a problem, or quantify improvement for the customer. And the focus is really just on the entire conversation. It's really getting to know that customer and really finding out kind of what makes them tick, so that you can really focus on what the customer is looking for as opposed to maybe a product specifically. And then consultative selling, this is where you're going to spend most of your time. We've been talking about this the entire semester already. Consultative selling focuses on relationship building. So relationship building where basically you're asking a bunch of questions and the customer is basically telling you exactly what they're looking for, both from a product base standpoint as well as customer base standpoint as well. So consultative selling essentially takes everything into place, focus on asking a lot of questions to learn more about the customer so that you can really present a solution that's going to make most sense for that particular customer. So there we go. Down here at the bottom, determining customer needs is always most important, right? We talked about this, the value proposition. What value can you provide to this person? And do they need it? If you're trying to sell somebody on a new car when they just bought a brand new car, you're probably missing the mark, right? So you need to understand if they just bought a new car, maybe you're not trying to sell them a new car. Maybe you're trying to sell them something else that they need, perhaps warranty or insurance or, a gas card, whatever it may be. Those are things that you need to understand. So that you're not wasting your time or wasting the customer's time too, because if you're wasting a customer's time, I can promise you it's not going to go well for you, and it'll probably ruin your chance of getting a sale from that person in the future. So let's talk about specifically my personal experience in the United States Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. So I was in charge of generating revenue through the United States Olympic and Paralympic Training Centers across the country. One in Colorado Springs, one in Lake Placid, New York, and previously one in Chula Vista, California. And so essentially what I was trying to do was create an experience where people could come, whether it was private groups, such as a banquet, an awards dinner, a lot of conferences that were held in a local hotel in town. We would try to bring them out to have, a fun night for the evening. But really what we were selling was the experience of being part of the team behind the team, or Team USA, right? So through this process, I would get requests from people all the time that would say, hey, send me over a proposal for an event at the training center. And rather than just sending over a blanket proposal, I would ask more questions. So I would use kind of a consultative selling approach where I would really say, well, I'd love to get on the phone rather than just sending over a proposal. Let me tell you about everything that we have to offer. And then let's talk about what suits you all the best. And let's figure out a price point and options and an evening itinerary that really works to make the most of it. So rather than giving them an opt out so that they could take a proposal and say, oh, that's too expensive, or oh, we don't want to do that, or oh, that's too long, rather than me sending it over that way, by getting on the phone, by asking questions to really try to understand the group, the customer, the price point, I could provide a much better tailored, unique situation for them to hopefully be able to close the business. And we were very, very successful with that. I actually started this department in 2016, and when I left in 2020, we were hosting on average about 185 events a year, and we were bringing in multi-million dollars annually from a department again that was started just 4 years previously. So the takeaway from that is, don't be so cookie cutter when you're talking about sales. You really need to make the customer feel like that they are unique. You need to feel them feel like they're heard. They need to feel like they're heard, rather, so that you can really use words like a tailored approach or a unique feel. Those are all really, really important, and all things that make customers feel very special and again, like they're actually part of something bigger than themselves. So things to remember, we just talked about it. Ask questions before speaking and don't spew at the customer. The last thing that you want is somebody who's just rattling off a ton of information and talking before the customer even has a chance to respond. You don't want to say 6 things and then the customer is trying to remember the 6 things that they were asked so that they can answer the questions. They've completely zoned you out at that point. So make sure that you're asking a lot of questions so that you can really listen and then provide solutions to what the customer is looking for. And again, don't just rattle off information. Be very comfortable with silence and be very comfortable trying to understand if you can fill a need. And there are plenty of times where, in my experience, where a customer will tell me exactly what they're looking for, and I'll have to simply say, hey, you know what? This is just not the right time for us to do business, right? This is not what you're looking for. I can't provide a solution right now, but perhaps in the future, we might be able to work something out. And customers will respect that. They'll understand that you're being genuine with them, that you're trying to be transparent, and that you're actually trying to do what's in their best interest, as opposed to just, bring in a bunch of money. Because not in doing it that way, you'll probably have a lot of people that will refer you to, or refer customers to you, which is always a good thing. And you're going to come across again as much more genuine and, more so than, the typical used car salesman model that we hear all the time. Establishing credibility in an introduction is very, very essential to this as well. Whether you're talking about your personal experience, whether you're talking about your company or your organization, what sort of value can you provide to this customer? Why would this person give you a chance to sell to them? And myself, in my services, whether it's working as a sports agent, at this point, I can talk about all the players that I've worked with. I can talk about the success stories that have been there. I can talk about who I am as a person. I can talk about my personal experiences, such as working for Hall of Fame basketball coach Rick Pitino at the University of Louisville, where we won a national championship, right? Credibility, boom. People understand who Coach Pitino is. People understand the University of Louisville when it comes to college basketball. People understand what a national championship is. Therefore, I already have credibility built in, right? So thinking of ways that you could provide credibility to a conversation in the very beginning allows people to listen more coherently and more alertly to whatever it is that you're trying to sell. If I come in and I say, hey, I want to represent you as a basketball player. Okay, well, who have you worked with? How long have you been doing this? Give me some success stories. If I don't have any of those, it's going to be really hard for me to get that business. And then think again, as we keep talking about value proposition, I can't repeat this enough. Value proposition is the key to sales. It's the key to relationship. Think about the people that you have relationships with, whether it's friends, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a mentor. You think of those people as being able to provide value to you and to your life, which is why you're in a relationship, whatever relationship that may be. That's why it's there, is because there's value being delivered across to the other person and vice versa. So you're trying to fulfill a need and or a want, and you can't do that unless you understand what the need and or the want is. That is so important. A lot of us just try to, give our pitch. We read our sales notes, and that's it. We don't take the time to really understand who this person is, what their want is, and what their need is. But again, if you can fulfill a need and or a want, then that is going to be what you're going to have a lot more success rather. So keep that in mind. Value proposition. What value are you providing to fulfill a need or a want? So next, let's talk about consumer motivation. If you look, and the chapter does a really good job with this, and pages 87 through 89, the different stages of motivation. The first stage is the need recognition. We've been talking about this. So what is the force to act for a consumer? What is their need? What is their want? So stage one is simply that need recognition. And a need is created when there's a gap between an individual's present state and an ideal state. So basically what they're looking to fill a gap. So that's the need recognition. Stage two is tension reduction, which can be an unpleasant feeling. Basically, this need is providing tension to the consumer. And through stage two, there's an opportunity to hopefully reduce that tension so that they can feel a little more pleasant, a little more fulfilled. So the tension, of course, it's a very unpleasant feeling. We've all experienced it in some way, shape, or form. And it's when it's there, when there's a need that remains unfulfilled. Stage three, consumer motivation, is the drive state. So this is the strength of the motivation. So when you think about the drive state, it exists when an individual is basically looking to reduce or eliminate the unpleasant tension, which is through stage two. So what is causing them to be motivated? What is that driving force for them is the drive state. Stage four is the want pathway. So sport consumption motives is basically here. The want pathway is basically the pathway toward a specific consumption decision chosen by a person to reduce their tension, right? So basically there's a pull that draws an individual towards something. And certainly sport can be that for several people, whether it's, just being a fan of a sport, whether it's a fan of a team, whether it's a fan of a player, whatever that want is, whatever those motives are, why you're consuming this particular product. And then finally, stage five is the goal behavior. So this is the decision. So basically this is the very end. This is the person who is, looking for a need. They're looking to fulfill some sort of need. They're motivated because of X, Y, and Z. They want because they're a fan or because they just want to go to a cool experience. And then basically at the end is stage five, is that goal behavior. So, basically they're realizing and they're choosing to either purchase a ticket or go to a game or whatever it may be. So that's stage five. And again, in the book on page 89, they give a really good example of how the motivation process works. So in order to talk about that, we really need to talk about motivation specifically. So motivation, there are a number of reasons why people are motivated. But for you in the sales perspective, you need to understand you need to diagnose someone's wants and needs, then basically provide solutions to that. And again, we've talked about this throughout. What is their motivation? What is the driving force? If you're selling somebody a car, are they looking for a hybrid because they're conscious for the environment? They're looking for better gas mileage. They're looking for a more affordable experience. They're looking for a really cool car, a really fast car, a really expensive car. These are all things that you need to understand. So you need to understand the wants and the needs and then be able to provide a solution to that if you can do it. And again, I reiterate, there's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing when you can't provide something, a solution. Try to be creative, but if you get to a point where you really can't, customers will respect you through that. Incentives are different things to provide extra motivation to people. These are all in terms of price deals, premium offers. A price deal meaning maybe a discount, a premium offer meaning that you're willing to give them something in extra, whether it's a ticket upgrade, whether it's 2-for-1 tickets, whether it's a VIP experience where they're meeting players or invited to a private event. Those are all premium offers. Contests, by buying tickets, you're entering into said contest to do this, whatever that may be. And then free samples, you're giving them a chance to try a product, try a service for free, hoping that it'll entice them to want to come back. Be very, very careful with this. You never want to give away something for free unless you understand that it's going to work, right? Last thing you want somebody to do is try your product and then be turned off by it, or try your services and fire you because of it. So those are things that people will do when they're starting out something, usually not so much when something is established. There are a million other types of examples, but again, this is all just like everything else, is the perception of value, right? In an incentive, incentives are provided because they're perceived as higher value than what you would normally offer a customer. So again, this value proposition is huge, and perception is all about what you can prove that the value of something is worth. For example, when you're giving a price deal, you'll normally look at it and you'll say, okay, this is $100, but today it's only $39.99, or today it's this. So you're showing how much value they're actually getting. They're getting that $100 value at a much cheaper price. And then the benefits, what's in it for me? Always, always, always thinking about this, the benefits of motivation. What am I getting out of this? So if you can fulfill that in the the need proposition, the value proposition of what's in this for me and how you can fulfill that, you're going to be better off. And then on page 99, we're looking at the sales process. You're going to see several different types of sales process chains. There are so many different models that are out there, but typically this is a pretty good one. It's a little lengthy in my estimation. Usually, you can focus this down a little bit more, but you're starting off with prospecting, which is the same. Who are you selling to and why? Who are these people? How are you identifying these people? So prospecting is understanding you're identifying the people. The opening basically is building rapport. It's basically setting meetings. It's coming up with opportunities to connect with this person. The needs analysis, we've been talking about this the entire time. Get the customer talking about who they are, what they're looking for, what sort of products or services that you can fulfill for them. Presenting solutions, you're basically talking about, looking at the needs analysis, and then you're presenting opportunities to, have a solution to their needs. Overcoming objectives, you could say somebody's looking to buy a ticket to a game. You can say, oh, well, you should look at this ticket specifically, or what about lower level tickets? And they'll probably come back and they'll say, oh, well, it's, pretty expensive to buy lower level tickets, or, oh, coming to a game on a Tuesday is a little difficult. And then you can overcome those objectives by either explaining the benefits of purchasing lower level tickets or Tuesday night tickets. You can move the conversation forward. You can pivot at that point to provide another solution that might be a little more comfortable to them, or you can continue to just move forward and talk about, building the value. The next step, or closing, or next steps, closing is basically making the sale. So, hey, you want to buy these lower level tickets? Oh, I don't know, they're pretty expensive. Well, they are expensive, but you get access to a club lounge, or you get access to free drinks, or you get access to just a better experience. You know what? That sounds great. And at that point, you say, well, it seems like you're interested in doing this. It sounds like you're interested in purchasing these lower level tickets. Why don't we take a credit card over the phone and we can get this moving, or something like that. So you need to ask for the sale. You need to ask certainly always ask for the sale. Don't leave it on the table. You want to push forward and ask somebody to close always. Maximizing the sale, basically just means that you are basically offering them additional opportunities. Hey, you just purchased these tickets. We're going to follow up to you at the end, and we're going to offer you, different add-on, benefits, different add-on value. And then, of course, last is servicing. Servicing is once you have the customer, once you've made the sale, you're following up with them to see how their experience was. You're following up to see if they'd like to purchase more. You're following up to them with them to just check in on their experience in general. So servicing is really important. Keep in mind, it's always better to keep. It's easier to keep customers than it is to find new customers always, because if you're starting with a new customer, you're starting from scratch at the top of the sales process. If you have a current customer, basically you're shortening the timeline to have somebody fulfill. And then again, lastly, just looking at the unique nature of the sport product in general. Sport possesses a subjective nature. It's intangible, right? Creates an ephemeral experience. It evokes strong emotional attachment and fandom. Perishable products that are simultaneously produced and consumed. Enjoyment of sport occurs in social settings. People are always looking to do social things. It can be unpredictable and inconsistent. So your chances of seeing something that you haven't seen before is always there when you go to an event. And then lastly, that sport marketers often lack control over the core product, therefore, leading back into the unpredictable nature and the inconsistency. So I appreciate your attention through this lecture and through this chapter. Again, make sure that you're spending time to go through these slides. Make sure that you're spending time to go through the book, specifically as it relates to motivation, specifically as it relates to the sales process. So understand all of that. Again, consultative selling, that's the bread and butter. That's where you need to focus on. Spend the time to get to know the consumer, get to know the customer, so that you can provide a need, an analysis, a solution for their needs, to hopefully, repeat business. So thanks so much. As always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to reach out.